Hi everyone, Mike here, and this is the Asus N551, one of Asus's recently launched 15-inch multimedia laptops. The N551 carries from last year's N550 series, and on a first peek, not much has changed. Once you get to analyze the new iteration more carefully though, you'll find a new screen, a redesigned internal layout and cooling system, a changed underbelly and a new speaker system, among others. But is the N551 an evolution? Well, mostly yes. Stick with me till the end of this video and you'll find out why. Just like with the previous generation, Asus will offer the N551 in a bunch of different configurations, so we're going to focus first on the aspects that remain the same on all of them. And we'll start with the design. Brushed aluminum is used for the lid cover, with a backlit Asus logo in the middle and the matte silver aluminum unibody for the interior and the sides, which feels nice and won't show fingerprints, so nothing's changed here. The underbelly is however covered in a rough plastic, and that's actually different from the N550, which featured an aluminum belly as well. The new approach allows for an easily removable battery and for quick access to the storage drive and memory. Thus, upgrading the laptop yourself is now easier to perform. And while we're still looking at the bottom, you'll notice that the only air intake cuts are placed on the top of the RAM module towards the front part of the laptop. In fact, Asus changed the cooling system on this new N, borrowing from the approach used on the older N56 series, with the air being pushed out towards the left side through a massive exhaust grille. I do appreciate this solution over the behind-the-hinge exhausts on the N550, but it does have one drawback. All the important connectors placed on the left edge have been pushed towards the front, which can lead to a rather cluttered side if you choose to use the Ethernet port or the video outputs over there. The laptop also offers a set of 3 USBs, an optical drive on the right edge plus the jack for the external subwoofer, a card reader on the front lip and some status LEDs just under the trackpad. Alright, with this out of the way, let's take a few steps back and look at the greater picture here. The N551 is still a fairly massive and bulky laptop, but at the same time solid built, strong. The lid cover does flex somewhat when pressed, but the interior hardly bulges at all. The palm rest is spacious and the keyboard sits in the middle of the body with plenty of room on top. The dimpled circular patterns spreading over the laptop's top left and right corners are still present here as an emblem of the N series, and they hide the front-facing stereo speakers beneath, whose cuts occupy just a tiny portion of the whole design though. There's still an external subwoofer included with this laptop as with the other Ns before, which takes care of the basses and helps the laptop push punchy and fairly loud sound when having it connected, with no distortions and vibrations even at high volumes. The hinge's design is one final exterior change on this new series when compared to the older one. There are 2 of them now, and not a single one like on the N550, but they are still firm and will keep the screen in place exactly how you put it. Speaking of it, there's a 15.7-inch display on the N551 with an IPS panel, 1920 by 1080 pixel resolution and a matte finishing, at least on this model, as others might be offered in slightly different configurations. It lacks touch, but the matte coating translates in low glare and thus improved visibility in strong light environments. The panel is made by Samsung and is crisp, sharp and bright. It displays punchy colors and shows absolutely no signs of light bleeding, not even on black backgrounds and maximum brightness. If you're interested in more technical details, I've included them in the written review available on tlbht.com. It's the first link in the description. Okay, moving along, I have to say that I found the typing experience more than satisfying on this laptop. The keys are really stiff, travel deep enough inside the frame, and offer the feedback that I was expecting. In fact, typing this review was a sheer pleasure and required no time to get used to the stroke or the layout. With one exception, the End key. Much like they do with many of their other laptops, Asus put the power button on the top right key of this laptop, where you'd expect the N to be, and while it is firmer than the others, you might still press it accidentally and cause the laptop to go to sleep with absolutely no warning. Besides these, it's worth noting that the numpad area and especially the arrow keys are somewhat cramped on this layout, as they are narrower than the others, which is something I resented on the N550, and Asus did not change on the newer model either. Last but not least, they are still using silver keys on a silver background with a wide backlighting system, and that makes the writing on each key barely visible with the illumination system turned on. It's not a major issue, but I just wish the guys in charge of the keyboards would just learn the benefits of contrast and go back to using black keys on these ends. Anyway, a fairly spacious glass-made trackpad sits just beneath the keyboard with tapered edges that separate it from the palm rest. It performed smoothly and accurately during the tests, properly responding to my swipes and taps. Physical clicks are somewhat clunky and stiff though. Okay, so far the N551 is looking great, but a multimedia laptop is not just about the aesthetics, the screen, the keyboards or the speakers, it's also about the performance. We're testing the Asus N551JK model here, with an Intel Core i7-4710HQ processor, 16GB of RAM, hybrid storage and NVIDIA GTX 8550M graphics. However, there are a few things to keep in mind. First of all, this is the DDR3 version of the NVIDIA chip and not the DDR5 model. Then, the 2.5-inch bay and the 2 memory slots are easily accessible on this laptop if you want to perform upgrades. There's no M.2 slot from what I can tell, but there is a half-sized mSATA connector used for the caching SSD present on our configuration. However, in order to get to it, you'll have to take apart the entire plastic belly, which is not such an easy task. And third, our laptop only includes a hybrid storage solution, thus booting and loading times are not as fast as with an SSD, plus the spinning drive is a noise source that you'll actually hear when the computer is idle or used for light activities. Those aside, this N551 coped well with everything I threw at it. Everyday tasks, Photoshop, Premiere, all sorts of multimedia content and games. I've tested a few titles like BioShock Infinite, Tomb Raider, Metro Last Light and others, and all of them are running smoothly on the default 1080p resolution, even with details set to very high or ultimate. You'll find more details in the written review, where I've also included benchmark results and info on how the laptop performs under serious load and heavy stress tests. In daily use, the N551 remains fairly quiet, although there's a constant roar coming from the exhaust grill and occasionally from the hard drive, which you'll hear in a completely quiet room. At the same time, the case gets merely warm. Under load, the fan spins much faster and the laptop gets noisier, with its middle reaching higher temperatures, enough to cause unpleasant sweaty hands, but not more than that. In summary, the N551 gets good grades when it comes to performance, noise and temperatures as well. There is one aspect where it fails to pass though: Wi-Fi. Asus used a MediaTek wireless board on this unit, which does not support AC speeds, but that's not the problem here. What's annoying is how fast the Wi-Fi speed drops when you get a bit further away from the router. For instance, in this picture I'm only 20 feet away with 2 walls in between, and the speed is half of what I'm getting with my desktop. Getting past 30 feet dropped the speeds to under 10 megabits per second. So as long as you have the router nearby, that shouldn't worry you, but if you need long distance reception, the N551 with this MediaTek Wi-Fi chip is going to disappoint. Okay, before we wrap this up, we should also talk about the battery. There's a 56 Wh one on this laptop and it's easily removable. I know that's important to some of you. 56 Wh though is only an average size capacity, and on such a powerful configuration, expect about 4 hours of daily use from this laptop and a little over 1 hour of gaming. All this being said, let's draw the line here. There are a few things that I like on the N551 when compared to last year's N550. The matte screen, the new cooling solution, the fact that they brought the speakers back on top of the keyboard, the fact that they made the RAM and the storage drive easy to access, and perhaps the removable battery. It might sound funny, but these are in fact all characteristics of the older N56 series. The notebook's design, sturdy body, comfortable keyboard and accurate trackpad are also aspects to appreciate. On the other hand, not much has changed hardware-wise, and I sure wish Asus will improve their keyboard layout. So if you already bought an N550, upgrading to the N551 is definitely not worth the investment. If you're however looking for a good multimedia 15-inch laptop right now, the Asus N551 should in my opinion be towards the top of your list. The pricing is going to make or break it, but knowing Asus's policies in the past, I believe it will be competitive. The Wi-Fi performance though can be a major deal breaker for some of you, so hopefully Asus will actually get it fixed on the final release versions. Anyway, these have been my impressions on the Asus N551. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below, and make sure to check out my detailed review on tlbhd.com, where you'll find extra details that I couldn't include in the video, as well as updates. For now, thanks a lot for watching, share the clip around if you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for my next videos. Catch you later.